Okay, so picture this. There's this colossal rock that just shoots up from the plains in Sri Lanka. And carved right into it is a place that's, it's part sanctuary, part art gallery, and just completely steeped in history. We're talking, of course, about the Dambulla Cave Temples, a site that has been a center of devotion for more than 2,000 years. It's just incredible. Yeah, the whole temple complex is tucked away right under this massive overhanging rock. It's towering 160 meters over the plains below. But what's really, really clever is the engineering. You could almost see it here. There's this drip line carved all along the edge of the rock. It seems so simple, but it's this brilliant little feature that's kept the inside of these caves perfectly dry for centuries. What an incredible feat of ancient vision, right? So that brings up a really big question, right? How did this place, which was basically a desperate hideout for a king on the run, how did it transform into one of the most magnificent Buddhist sites on the entire planet? Well, the story behind it is pretty dramatic. We're talking exile, secret vows, and centuries of devotion. Okay, so to really get a handle on Dambulla, we have to go back. Way, way back, even before it was a temple. Its spiritual significance, you'll find, is rooted in a much, much deeper past. Archaeologists have found human skeletons here that date back 2,700 years, and that tells us something absolutely crucial. These caves were important to people long before Buddhism even arrived on the island. This wasn't just some empty rock in the middle of nowhere. It was a landscape that was already filled with human history. And check this out. Nearby, there's this burial site called Katua. You can see it here. They found these amazing megalithic tombs and all sorts of artifacts like pottery and really intricate beads. So we know these belong to a thriving Iron Age farming community. And it's pretty widely believed that this village was the one that provided the food and support needed for the very first Buddhist monks to set up shop here. So the roots of this sacred site are all tangled up with the lives of Sri Lanka's earliest people. All right, now we get to the story that really marks the temple's official beginning. And it's a heck of a tale. It's all about loss, resilience, and a promise made by a king when he had hit rock bottom. So the central character in this drama is King Valagamba. Now, his reign gets off to a rocky start. He takes the throne in 103 BC, but just 5 months in, bam, he's overthrown by invaders. He's defeated, forced to flee his own capital, and ends up in exile for 14 years. But, this isn't the end of his story. He eventually raises an army, defeats the guys who took his throne, and in 89 BC, he makes this triumphant return and reclaims his kingdom. And this was the turning point. As King Valagamba was literally running for his life, a Jain ascetic named Giri taunted him from his hermitage, shouting out, "The great black Sinhalese is fleeing!" Can you imagine? In that moment of total humiliation, the king makes this solemn vow. If he ever got his throne back, he would come back and build a Buddhist temple on that exact spot. And guess where his hiding place was for those 14 long years? Yep, the caves of Dambulla. This natural fortress was his sanctuary. So of course, the second he reclaimed his kingdom, he made good on his vow. He went back, had Giri's hermitage demolished, and started turning his old hideout into this magnificent temple. It was just this incredible act of gratitude. So King Valagamba, he laid the foundation for sure. But what we see today, that's the work of many, many hands over many, many centuries. So come on, let's take a quick tour through this incredible, always changing masterpiece. First off, the sheer scale of the artistry here is it's breathtaking. Across the 5 main caves, you're going to find a total of 153 Buddhist statues, and they're in all sorts of poses, standing, seated, reclining. And then, when you look up, your jaw just drops. There are over 2,100 square meters of murals covering the walls and the ceilings. It's this overwhelming canvas of devotion. Seriously, it's one of the largest collections of ancient paintings anywhere in the world. Okay, so when you step into the first cave, the cave of the Divine King, you are immediately face to face with this colossal 14-meter-long reclining Buddha, and it's carved directly from the living rock. It is such an awe-inspiring sight, and it really sets the tone for the entire complex. All right, next up is Cave 2, the Cave of the Great Kings. And this one is the largest and honestly the most spectacular of them all. What's so fascinating here is that it's not just filled with Buddha statues. You also find figures of Hindu gods like Vishnu, and you even find statues of the kings who paid for all this. It's this really remarkable blend of the divine and the royal, and it just shows you how these different belief systems could coexist. And again, you have to look up. The ceilings are just a kaleidoscope of color. The artists were so brilliant, they used the natural curves of the rock itself to create these flowing patterns and to tell stories from the Buddha's life, like the famous one about his temptation by the demon Mara. And see, this is what makes Dambulla so compelling. It was never a finished project. It was always evolving. It's like a living canvas. For kings, sponsoring this kind of art was a way to show off their piety and their power. So long after Valagamba, a 12th century king came along and gilded over 70 statues. That's how it got the name the Golden Rock Cave. Then, fast forward to the 18th century, and the kings of Kandy funded this huge restoration, repainting the caves in that vibrant style that we still see today. And one of the most unique features here is that you find these royal portrait sculptures. So this isn't just a temple to gods and Buddhas, it's also a kind of historical record of its royal patrons. This statue right here, for example, shows King Kirti Sri Rajasinha. He's the one responsible for that big 18th century makeover. Figures like these are so important because they connect all this sacred art directly to the human history of Sri Lanka. So, from an ancient refuge to a royal arts gallery, Dambulla's story just keeps going, right into the modern day, where its importance is now recognized on a global scale. In 1991, Dambulla got the big one. It was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And, it's easy to see why, right? It was called a masterpiece of human creative genius, not just for the incredible art, but for how well it's been preserved and for its totally unbroken history as a place of worship. And this is so important to remember. Dambulla is not a museum. It is a living, breathing place of worship. It's the largest and best preserved cave temple complex in all of Sri Lanka. Monks still live here, and pilgrims still come here in huge numbers, continuing a tradition of devotion that has lasted for over 2,000 years. And all of this really leaves you with a final big question. Think about it. Dambulla has survived invasions, the fall of entire kingdoms, and just the simple decay of time. So what is it? What's that perfect combination of faith, royal power, and incredible artistry that allows a sacred space like this not just to survive, but to actually flourish for millennia?